Did God give Israel an economic model based upon cycles of 7 and 50 years? How did the year of release work? Did the sabbatical year, the year of freedom from debts, picture a better release, a rest from far greater burdens? Let's look at Deuteronomy 15. How would a year of release, the Shemitah, bless a nation? Could it lessen poverty? At the end of every 7 years, you shall cancel debts. This is the way it shall be done. Every creditor shall release that which he has lent to his neighbor. He shall not require payment from his neighbor and his brother, because Yahweh's release has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may require it, but whatever of yours is with your brother, your hand shall release. However, there will be no poor with you, for Yahweh will surely bless you in the land, which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance to possess. If only you diligently listen to Yahweh your God's voice, to observe to do all this commandment, which I command you today. For Yahweh your God will bless you, as he promised you. You'll lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. You'll rule over many nations, but they will not rule over you. However, because of sickness, foolishness, wars, droughts, discrimination, greed, oppression, and many other causes, poverty may remain. What was required in how they treated the poor? Now, if there are some poor persons among you, say one of your fellow Israelites, in one of your cities in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, don't be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards your poor fellow Israelites. To the contrary, open your hand wide to them. You must generously lend them whatever they need. But watch yourself. Make sure no wicked thought crosses your mind, such as the 7th year is coming, the year of debt cancellation, so that you resent your poor fellow Israelites and don't give them anything. If you do that, they'll cry out to the Lord against you, and you'll be guilty of sin. No, give generously to needy persons. Don't resent giving to them, because it's this very thing that'll lead to the Lord your God blessing you in all you do and work at. Poor persons will never disappear from the earth. That's why I'm giving you this command. You must open your hand generously to your fellow Israelites, to the needy among you, and to the poor who live with you in your land. Slavery through kidnapping was illegal in Israel. People could become slaves for several reasons: paying off a debt, paying back a theft, economic survival, apprenticeship, prisoners of war, and so on. Were there time limits of such slavery? Could they volunteer to remain slaves as a kind of welfare? If any of you buy Israelites as slaves, you must set them free after 6 years. And don't just tell them they're free to leave. Give them sheep and goats and a good supply of grain and wine. The more the Lord has given you, the more you should give them. I'm commanding you to obey the Lord as a reminder that you were slaves in Egypt before he set you free. But one of your slaves may say, I love you and your family, and I'd be better off staying with you, so please don't make me leave. Take the slave to the door of your house, and put a sharp metal rod through one earlobe and into the door. Such slaves will belong to you for life, whether they're men or women. Don't complain when you have to set a slave free. After all, you got 6 years of service at half the cost of hiring someone to do the work. How were the firstborn animals treated as a class in ancient Israel? All the firstborn males that are born of your herd and flock you shall dedicate to the Lord your God. You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You shall eat it, you and your household, before the Lord your God year by year, at the place that the Lord will choose. But if it has any blemish, if it's lame or blind or has any serious blemish whatever, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You shall eat it within your towns. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it, as though it were a gazelle or a deer. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Does the year of release from debts picture a year of release, a rest from greater burdens? He, that is Jesus, came to Nazareth where he'd been brought up. He entered, as was his custom, into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. The book of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. He opened the book and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he's anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to the captives, recovering of sight to the blind, to deliver those who are crushed, and to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord." He closed the book, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began to tell them, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." Did God give Israel an economic model based upon cycles of 7 and 50 years? How did the year of release work? Did the sabbatical year, the year of freedom from debts, picture a better release, a release from far greater burdens? You decide.